Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights. How are you today, Angela? Good to see you.
You too. Thank you, Martin.
All right, and congratulations.
Thanks
too.
again.
So you've been there 21 years, 22 years.
22 years.
God, don't you feel like you've been in charge anyway?
It's been a good 22 years.
All right.
Sure.
Well, it's always good to see, and you have earned that executive director title. We have Mitch Momo, the project manager, who's been project manager for nearly 16 years. So congratulations on that, Mitch.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
It's definitely an honor to be there that long. And joining us by telephone, he's been all over the place checking things out. Tony Alford, the president of the Terrebonne Levee and Conservation District, and he's been with them as president for 21 years. So we have a lot of longevity on this program today, and we're going to talk about this storm. So, Jason, if we can, let's bring that map up again, if we can, full screen. And just to let the people know that this storm got its act together right before it made landfall. Some reports in the northeast quadrant, 90-plus mile-an-hour winds. So it was just starting to really try to become something when it hit as a Cat 1. So I'm going to turn to Ms. Hidalgo right now. She's going to give us some information on how this is affecting us in our area and some of the closings we're dealing with right now.
Sure. As you know, we have a lot of floodgates that span all over Terrebonne, and we started to track the storm early on and got a plan together with our planning team and decided which gates we were going to operate. We started on Saturday, and then we finished up late yesterday afternoon. So as of right now, we're all buttoned up and ready to go. We do expect a little bit high tide, not terribly bad, but what we've got in place and closed should be able to handle that just fine.
So you have a high tide today at about 1:30, you said?
Correct.
And then tomorrow, 2:30?
Correct.
Okay, so isn't that the million-dollar question most of the time is when do you open, when do you close? Isn't that the juggling act?
It is, and it's something that we do very well. We've gone through plenty of storms. As you know, some years we've had as many as 6 in one hurricane season. My crew is very good at handling the system. We can close the entire system down in about 2 days. So we plan well ahead, and we've got a lot of people not just sitting at this table, but that work with me in the field, and we've got a lot of experience there. So we're very capable of handling something like this.
Yeah, and they do a great job.
They do.
Very dedicated. Let me turn to Mitch before we get to Tony. If you hear, just letting the audience know, if you're hearing a little, sounds like horse hooves, that's Tony on some bad roads. So we're going to get to Tony in a second, just to let you know he is in a vehicle driving. So I want to let you know that. So Mitch, looking at this storm, boy, it certainly did some damage on the way before it hit Yucatan and all those other areas. But what stood out mostly on this storm with you?
So, obviously the thing that concerned us the most was the constant shifting more east and more north as we went over time. And that's always alarming to us. I think the most prevalent thing as I watched this is the angle in which this storm came in was beneficial for us. We knew we probably weren't going to get horrible surge from the impacts of it due to its alignment. It stayed a long way away from us the whole time. But any shift, being on the east side is never a good thing, and we've seen it before in the past with Rita and storms such as that hit a long ways away that did a lot of damage. So we were definitely keeping our eye on any shifts and knew we were going to get some high water. It's not an easy thing to do to close this system down. I mean, you don't go press a button and do it. I mean, you have to close some of these things with the tide, and how you close one may affect another one. So, I mean, it really is a process to get the whole system buttoned down and open back up. But as Angela said, I mean, what an amazing staff that the 11th District does have to do this.
Yeah, and Tony, we're looking, I know you can't see it while driving, we're looking at some of the surge in Texas, and thank God it was a small storm. Mitch alluded to the fact that Rita, which was a long ways away, 170 miles away from Terrebonne Parish, threw a 10-foot tidal surge. This one's throwing a 6 to 7 surge right on the northeastern quadrant of the storm itself. But because it was so small, we had lesser effects here in our viewing area of HTV. But nonetheless, all these early storms, they get people aware and they get people on their toes. But like Mitch said, y'all don't just go open and close these gates just for kicks of practice. There's reasons you do this, right?
Yeah, this one we were unsure. Far to the east it was going to come. We look like a monkey with a football. If we don't close them, you always get somebody complaining, whether the fishermen or the residents, that you either didn't close it or you closed it too soon or left it closed too long. And it's just something you got to make a decision and you got to stick by it. And you got to open and close this whole system that we have to protect the public. And so there's no easy decision.
Yeah, as we're looking at our live shots from our cameras on those levee systems, and of course during a storm we have several of those. We're going to take a break. We'll come right back. We want to spend the full show today talking about, what the logistics of doing all this and what it means. And it may not seem important to a lot of people, but it is important to the other sector. So we'll take a break.
Weights and Downer. You or someone you know has lost the ability to earn a living because someone put the company interests before their well-being. In times like these, there's one firm who has handled hundreds of catastrophic and lost earning cases. Before you settle fast with a company's attorney, give Weights and Downer a call. 985-876-0870. Weights and Downer. Let us fight for your rights.
All right, we are back. Miss Angela Hidalgo, the executive director of the Terrebonne Levee and Conservation District, and she's the new executive director, just took that role, but she's been there for a long, long time. We have Mitch Momon, the project manager. He's been there for 16 years, does a great job with this whole arena of activities that goes with protecting people here in the parish. And via telephone, we have Tony Alford, the president of the Terrebonne Levee and Conservation District. And I call him the pit bull sometimes because he definitely goes after some things that we thought were impossible. So he also does a great job at getting some of these things done. Angela, let's talk about the water levels right now in Terrebonne Parish. And where are we now with some of these areas?
Some of our floodgates actually on the eastern side of the parish are in alarm as we're reporting right now. For example, Bayou Petite Caillou and Cocodrie is at a 2.2 right now, and in Bush Canal is about a 2.3. You can see on the graphs right there what we're holding back about a foot of water as we speak. So that tells me that we made the right decision to close the gates when we did.
There's no doubt, Mitch, she makes a good point because you can close the gate and some people will go look at it and go, well, why the hell did they close the gate? But she's just proven, and the telemetry proves that it was a good move.
Right. So what the whole objective, if it's weather dependent, is to try to time the closing of the gates with the lowest water on the inside the system, which we did a really good job of yesterday. It was below a foot when we were able to get everything shut down. So we let the tide fall out, and then we were able to get these main gates closed down. So you give yourself every inch of reservoir capacity that you possibly can get. You know, what we're looking at with a storm is usually when we think we're going to get 2.5 feet, we're shutting down. You know, that's what the permit conditions are. So, you know, we fully expect to get 2.5 feet today or somewhere close to that. And probably another high tide cycle tomorrow coming in with probably stronger winds tomorrow as this thing gets on top of us and pulls it directly out the south.
We'll get the tail. We'll get the whip.
We'll get the whip coming in. We'll probably get a little weather, I'm sure. But yeah, that's the key. And sometimes it's hard. You know, you're trying to I guess accommodate navigation. You know, this was the 4th of July weekend, so obviously we had a lot of discussions. You know, there were boat parades and things like that we had to factor in, and you want to try to get all the commercial traffic, any supply boats, you know, but you really have a short window when we have to operate. And as Tony says, we all get together. We got a planning team. We've done this a lot of times, but when we make a decision, that's the decision, and we move forward.
Yeah, let me go to Tony. When you make it, you got to roll, but the logistics of all this, you know, most people watching, and I don't say this with any malice towards anyone, they go home and they hope they have power. They hope they have good air conditioning. They batten down the hatches and they see what happens. But most people don't know the complexity of what has been built, especially in Terrebonne Parish. Maybe you could sort of take us through that. And what's the most concerning part that you're working on that you want to get some more work done on?
Well, so we just awarded a project to lock in the navigational canal that's going to make things a whole lot easier. You know, it's going to be continuously closed, where it's going to stop salt water from coming in and fresh water from leaving. And that'll be something, you know, it's pretty difficult to operate above a dove. And that'll be one component that's probably the most important part that we won't have to struggle with like we do now. And of course, things are a little easier than they were. And as we build the components of this total project, I think it'll become easier as we go, and we'll make adjustments to make it easy. But I tell you what, to have the crew that we have and to be able to operate this thing as we do right now is awesome. You know, for the parish to feel safe and operate it correctly. There's no instructions that come with this project.
Yeah, let's do this. Maybe I could ask Jason to say why he read my mind. I wanted him to go to some of the camera shots because, you know, if you're watching in the public, these pictures do this no justice. These structures are massive. You look at this on TV and you go, oh yeah, that's nice. But when you get on this structure and see how big they are, and Mitch, a lot of people don't realize how far underwater these structures go.
Yeah, so this is minus 24 feet underwater. And look, every inch of water piling up on the outside is a tremendous force. Just 1 inch across that whole structure is an unbelievable force acting on that structure. People don't. And so when you're winching these things shut and the water's coming in, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on that big structure. Now, look, you know, we had the money we had and we built what we could build, and we've improved upon it over time. I mean, since Ida, you know, the H&C structure has had a lot of modifications that make it a lot easier to operate than it was before. So, you know, Tony's exactly right. There's no instruction manual. It is an extremely dynamic environment. You know, what you do at H&C affects what goes on at BGC and at Falgo Canal. Same thing on the eastern side of the parish. You know, when you open one floodgate, it has an effect on another floodgate. And through only experience is why we're able to operate as we do today.
Yeah,
you know?
Y'all were the blueprint.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
It's a trial and error.
Absolutely.
Let's take a break. When we come back, Tony, let's talk about that reverse head that we all learned about on Hurricane Ida. Some modifications have been done. on that. And, each storm teaches you a new lesson. So we'll talk about that. We'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about how the past has helped the future. Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. All right, we're back. We're talking logistics. We know the storm didn't come our way. We're going to get the whip tomorrow. We're going to get some southerly flow. We're going to get some rain. We're going to get a little slight increase in surge. Nothing like they're getting in Texas right now, but that's just the way it goes. As the crow flies, it makes a big difference where you're located. Tony, let's come back and talk about some of the things we learned from Ida and Zeta, and let's talk about how it's been implemented and how it's been fixed, or in the process of being fixed.
Right. Well, so that's some of the watching those two storms, we saw something that we didn't realize would happen, and that's especially in the upper part of Cocodrie, inside Petite Caillou. We saw that water come up. Lake Boudreaux moved over into the corner. And you were looking at, 9 feet, 10 feet on the inside. So as that took place, and we saw that happen twice, Zeta and Ida. Mm-hmm. And so we figured out how to put additional flap gates, which we've done in Petite Caillou. We're in the process of putting them on Placid and Bush Canal. And the study is that a 9-foot surge on the inside corner, we knock 5 foot off of that with those components in place. And it's also paid for by hazard mitigation, $10 million paid by the federal government. Probably, and Mitch can verify this, probably one of the few no's that we ever got from the CPRA back when was it cost us about $10 million to put flap gates on the Bubba Dove. Well, you start kind of looking at, if I'm going to spend $10 million on this structure, when I have a lock coming into place, is it worth spending that money for a couple of years when you're going to have a lock in place where you're not going to need that? And I think they sort of put their foot down. We'd always got, yes, do this, yes, do that. And that's probably one of the first times they said, no, doesn't make sense to spend that money for a couple of years when we have this project being put in place.
Well, I can't believe somebody told you no and that you accepted it, right?
That was one of the few. And, sometimes you have to look at the situation and figure out, am I just blowing money? Or am I really correcting the situation? And will that be corrected anyway as we move forward?
And that's a good point. Let me ask Mitch, he makes a good point. Engineering, y'all have formulas and everything else you go by, but sometimes those formulas, you got to tweak and you got to adjust them because it's such a fluid thing, isn't it?
Well, speaking of, having 150, 160 mile an hour north winds for 5 hours is not, that's just not a situation you prepare for. The whole Morganza system was based off of protecting you from the south. All the modeling was from the south, not from the north. But we had it happen twice, which is unbelievably rare. 2 storms passed pretty much in a similar pathway within a short period of time. And you got to give credit to the levee district and Tony and CPRA for addressing the situation and moving forward with a solution to help, remedy some of those problems. Look, I'll say this, and this is not just how we operate the floodgates, but in the future, it's going to be adaptive management with this system as we move forward, as we have the lock. We're going to discover new things that we can do with the lock to improve certain areas. And we just have to have that open mindset of constantly adjusting and managing, our environment's going to change. Cordy's going to rebuild the islands, which should benefit the operation of our system. I think people just need to keep an open mind. The mindset of this is not what happened in the past is just, that's not the way to be thinking about things. Right. It's what can we do to fix the situation that we're in right now.
And we got about a minute and a half left, and I want to let the new executive director sort of close out, let people know next couple of days they're going to see some things, but patience, right?
That's right. We're going to go through the high tide cycle today and tomorrow because we are expecting it to be a little bit more than it was this morning. We're going to go through that today again. Tomorrow, our planning team's going to get together, and then as soon as we can, we understand that it's inconvenient right now to have these gates closed when people want to go fishing on a beautiful day, but we do have a plan to open it up as soon as possible. We appreciate everyone's patience, and hopefully we don't have any issues and everything can get back opened up by Wednesday morning.
All right. I certainly appreciate y'all joining us and educating the public as y'all always do, and keep up the great work. And this was a good, I hate to say practice run, because it's not a practice run, it's all real stuff. But to our neighbors in Texas, we pray for you, and certainly let's keep dodging some bullets here if we can. But if we do have the storms, we're very prepared, and we appreciate all the work that has been done to get us prepared. We'll take a break. We'll have more programming right here on HTV. Don't go away. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.